Mas tá bom.
Vai ser o que ele tá falando. No chama. Let's go. October 4.
Agora mostrou que tem uma confusão.
You know, it's all going to depend on how he behaves in there too, so there's no way of knowing.
I'll be honest, I think a part of him is a little bit salty that he lost the belt, and
God damn, I'm curious. I'm curious. Does Magomed come out this time and wrestle a little bit, or does he stand up and strike with Pereira?
The feud between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev boils over, with tensions reaching a whole new level. To start, this past week, Alex Pereira had mocked Magomed for hiding from him in the room of the UFC Performance Institute, but the situation escalated the following day. Magomed showed up in front of Pereira, sat across from him, and challenged. Both fighters relied on translators to exchange their trash talk, turning the encounter into a heated face-off.
Sure, yeah. Зачем? Я же вот здесь, что хотел?
I don't understand. I understand.
Ты хотел меня видеть? Вот я здесь, I'm here.
Ó, ele acha que a gente tava tipo, mencionando o professor dele, tá ligado? Ele tá sentou aqui e agora ele falou.
Не зачем там спрятаться от
Isso que ele tá
меня?
falando.
Ele entende inglês, não? O treinador entende inglês?
alguém que fala inglês é força aí?
Then, after going back and forth with Alex, champion Magomed rose to his feet and told Pereira that on October 4th, he would hand him a defeat, laying down a bold statement ahead of their clash.
Ele falou que basicamente eles seguraram ele aí e falaram: você não pode sair agora.
Mas tá bom.
Vai ser o que ele tá falando. No chama. Let's go. October 4.
Agora mostrou que tem uma confusão.
Following that, Pereira admitted that there is definitely a rivalry between him and Magomed Ankalaev. Pereira said that Ankalaev has done plenty of talking, but in fight night, he will have to answer for it. Pereira held him firm in his stance, continuing to claim that Magomed looked scared.
Não, com certeza.
Yeah, there's definitely a rivalry. You know, he's said a lot, and now he's got to face it. And yeah, he definitely looks like he's a little bit scared. I don't know.
Meanwhile, Lucas Tracy noted that Alex Pereira is likely still bitter about losing the belt to Magomed, a champion who's not a fan favorite and did not generate much hype. He pointed out that if there is any fighter, Pereira has the green light to target with trash talk. It is Magomed, since Pereira knows the fans will rally behind him in that rivalry.
I'll be honest, I think a part of him is a little bit salty that he lost the belt, and Magomed, this guy that is not a fan favorite, that didn't have a lot of hype, took his belt, and he knows that Magomed's not a fan favorite. People say he has a boring style, and Pereira knows that if there's any fighter in which he has the green light to talk shit against and get backup support from the fans, it's this guy. So he's feeling free to talk a lot of crap. And Magomed, I mean, you know, some people say it's Ali, his manager, talking shit for him on his phone, but it might be him, it might be his manager. The point is, Magomed's talking some shit. Okay?
In addition, Lucas highlighted the humorous side of the exchange, noting that neither Alex, Pereira, nor Magomed was even looking at each other directly, but instead shouting into their phone translators to get their words across.
Magomed saying, I'm going to send you back to the tire shop. This is an awkward confrontation, and you can just see it. And it's funny because, like, Pereira, he's like, you know, animated, talking to the translator here. Magomed's right there. I know you don't speak the same language. He's right there. And I know you got to have a translator, but it's just funny how, like, they're not even looking at each other. They're not looking at each other. They're not even acknowledging each other. Glover is loving this. You've got to, I think this is probably not even someone on Pereira's team. This is probably someone that works for the UFC. He's getting this. Glover knows this is just cinema, right? Glover knows.
Furthermore, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson predicted that the second fight would be much better, pointing out that Alex Pereira has finally had time to refresh after a busy stretch where he was competing 3 to 4 times a year.
I think the second fight's gonna be a lot better, just because, you know, I feel like Alex Pereira is refreshed. He's had some time off. You know, prior to this, they were running that man through the fight like he was just, you know, a well-oiled machine. Just at, you know, he was fighting 3 or 4 times a year. Where Ankalaev, he took his time to get there. He had a great game plan. He, you know, was able to implement that wrestling style against Alex Pereira. So
Similarly, Tim Welch shared his curiosity about how Magomed Ankalaev would approach the rematch, noting that in their first meeting, Ankalaev's strategy seemed to throw Alex Pereira off. Welch explained that every time Pereira was trapped against the fence, Ankalaev was able to let his punches go while Pereira was stuck deciding whether to defend against hooks or worried about a takedown. In the end, it was Magomed who outstruck Pereira.
Okay, we got UFC 320 coming up, and we got the main event. Alex Pereira is taking on Magomed Ankalaev for the number 2 fight. Their second fight for the light heavyweight bout. God damn, I'm curious. Does Magomed come out this time and wrestle a little bit, or does he stand up and strike with Pereira? Because last time it almost I think it threw Pereira off. Every time Magomed had him pinned on the fence, Magomed was able to let go of his punches, and I think Pereira was sitting there thinking about getting underhooks or worrying about him shooting the whole time, and Magomed outstruck him.
I'd have to watch that fight, but didn't he shoot quite a bit, and Pereira actually had really fucking great defense?
I don't remember.
However, Alex explained that he has already done great work in camp and intends to stick to his strategy, but emphasized that a lot will also depend on how Ankalaev approaches the fight once they are in the cage.
No, like I said, I can't take it to heart. I can't let it get to me. So I did a lot of great things in camp, and I have to follow my strategy. So, it's all going to depend on how he behaves in there too. So there's no way of knowing that.
At the same time, the Weasel pointed out the sudden creativity that could be key to disrupting Ankalaev's game plan. He suggested that in the rematch, Pereira might abandon a uniform approach and mix in unexpected techniques, such as a lead leg kick flowing into a right high kick. Even if partially blocked, enough of the strike could slip through the guard to create the opening. Pereira needs to apply pressure.
I think sudden creativity will be like a necessary wrench into Unk's plans. You saw a moment of that, and perhaps in the rematch he comes out there with not just a uniform approach, but fires out some creative techniques like a lead leg kick into a stringing right high kick, which gets partially blocked, so a certain amount of that impact broke through the guard, and that gave Alex the moment he needed to apply pressure. He pressed Unk toward the fence. He finally has his moment. He's in the driver's seat. He can make it happen. If it wasn't for that bounce feint, Alex really respected that technique. The mere sight of it repelled him. He just retreated. After it was done, then he continued the pressure after, but then took a swift left straight to the face, and there goes all that work for the pressure.
In addition, the Weasel pushed back on the narrative that Alex Pereira was not aggressive enough in the first fight and that applying more pressure might have changed the outcome. He explained that if Pereira only brought pressure in the opening round but failed to do so afterward, then it means he never truly took an advancing step throughout the fight.
Post-fight, even during the fight, was that Alex wasn't aggressive enough. He should have pressed the action. He should have moved forward. He should have threw hands more. And if he did, it would have raised his chances. Well, I'm not too sure on that sentiment because we can analyze some moments in the first fight that showed a counter to Alex's aggression, right? It wasn't like throughout that Alex didn't even try to move forward, didn't try to pressure. He did. And he sensed a level of danger from Unk's countering style that he had to respect. That had multiple occurrences throughout the fight. There's a reason why Alex heavily pressured the beginning of the first round, and then provided no pressure at the beginning of any other round afterward. In fact, Alex didn't take a single advancing step to begin the 5th round.
Furthermore, the Weasel explained that Ankalaev relied on the go first and go third principle, a strategy that in theory could have also played to Alex Pereira's advantage. He suggested that Pereira's smartest approach would have been to use leg kicks to draw out predictable counters from Ankalaev and then build his offense off those reactions. Instead, most of Pereira's attacks came across as too straightforward and too obvious, which limited his effectiveness during the fight.
Force out attack so he can counter. He was using that go first and go third principle, which I think would also favor Alex to draw out the counter triggers from Unk so then he can counter those himself. I honestly think that's Alex's best possible tactic than just throwing leg kicks and then he's perpetually pressed the entire fight off of those. Most of his attacks were just way too honest. Like he wasn't feinting as much, he wasn't setting up his strikes as much, and essentially he became oblivious to many of Unk's attacks.
Adding to that, Modestas Bukauskas, the former Cage Warriors light heavyweight champion, predicted that Magomed Ankalaev will once again defeat Alex Pereira and retain his title. He acknowledged Pereira's impressive skill set but emphasized that in this rematch, Ankalaev will raise his level and step up his game.
I still think Ankalaev's gonna do the job. As amazing as Pereira is, I think Ankalaev will even be stepping up his game even more and implementing it even more. I knew the strikes from Pereira's side wasn't quite as much, but I do feel that southpaw style is going to be very difficult a difficult puzzle for him to deal with.
On the other hand, heavyweight contender Curtis Blaydes weighed in on the matchup, saying that if he had to pick between the two fighters, he would side with Alex Pereira. Blaydes added that as long as Pereira is healthy, he would back him to win.
I'm gonna go with Pereira because of the injury, and also I heard he had this same illness that I had, and I know how that feels. So yeah, as long as he's healthy, I go with Pereira.
In contrast, Chael Sonnen weighed in on the dispute between Ankalaev and Pereira at the UFC Performance Institute. He explained that Ankalaev's leaving the room after seeing Pereira train was not an act of fear. Sonnen suggested that their training times may have simply overlapped, but that does not mean you interrupt another fighter's workout.
Pereira comes in for a workout at the PI. Ankalaev hides in a room until Pierre was done. Ankalaev is going to come in the room. He's going to do his own workout. He sees Pierre and his team are in there, and he hides in a different room until he sees that Pierre is gone, and then he comes out. All right. Well, the word hide seems to be used as a pejorative. It seems to be used as though it was a fear. He was fearful to coming out. He was hiding. As opposed to, turned out their times overlapped. Pierre had got there first, so I waited until he was done. That sounds like the one that you would do.
He added that while it would not have been outright impolite for Ankalaev to stay and train in the same room, it certainly would have been unusual.
Don't know that it would have been impolite to come into the same room that your opponent was in first and then go find a little mat space and start doing your own workout, but now you're both working out, and that's unusual. In fact, I can tell you in my entire life, I've only even heard of a time where that happened once. And in case you're wondering, it was Randy Couture and Josh Barnett. So, or they were working out in the same room, getting ready to fight for the World Heavyweight Championship. And they just avoided each other. They didn't work out together, but it was the same room, same coach, same everything. It was being ran for by Maurice Smith. But that's the only time I've ever even heard of this.
Expanding on that, Chael Sonnen went on to say that Ankalaev has nothing to apologize for. In his view, the right thing to do is to concede the space to whomever got there first. He added that while Ankalaev could have walked in and acknowledged Pereira's presence, that would not have added to the competitive edge between them.
Was hiding, and I was looking this from Ankalaev's perspective, and I was thinking to myself, you have nothing to apologize for. The appropriate thing to do would be to concede to whoever got there first. I think. That's what I feel. You could have come in. You could have said hi and acknowledged them. You could, but that would feel to me as insincere and possibly the opposite of promoting a conflict.
Moreover, Chael feels that everyone handled the situation the right way. He explained that if Ankalaev had followed Pereira's suggestion, the outcome might have been worse. Imagine Ankalaev walking in, starting his workout by taking notes, or just standing there staring at Pereira. Sonnen said Ankalaev has every right to do that, and if he had, it would have been far more compelling from a psychological warfare standpoint.
Would seem as though a de-escalation. I mean, I feel like everybody did this right. I don't know what it is that Pereira would have expected. In fact, had Ankalaev done what Pereira is suggesting he should have done, which is to come in, would have he really wanted that? Would have he really wanted Ankalaev now, right? Ankalaev's got the right to be there. Imagine he doesn't go to his corner. Imagine he doesn't find some kind of open workout space, and that's where he sets up shop. Imagine he comes right to the mat, and he watches Pereira. That would have been very compelling. Imagine Ankalaev comes in and he takes a seat right at Pereira and he stares at him. He's got every right to be there. Pereira's got the right to be there. He watches it and he has a notepad. You want to talk about psychological warfare. You want to talk about playing games. It's that.
Building on that, the MMA guru gave his take on the situation, pointing to the staff member who told Ankalaev to stay out of Pereira's way, which led to Ankalaev waiting outside. He argued that this kind of interference ruins the sport's natural tension, since it is often those backstage interactions that create real altercations. According to him, fighters should be allowed to cross paths because that is what builds the drama. He added that they're not simply going to start swinging at each other backstage, but the friction is what fans want to see.
So I guess Pereira was accusing him of like avoiding him on fight week, but it was the UFC PI girl that told Ankalaev to like stay out of the way of Pereira so they don't have an This is the somebody find me who that fucking UFC PI bitch is, dude. I'm not saying find her. Wait, hang on a second. Just, this is the problem though. Whoever that woman was at the UFC PI that was like, make sure they don't cross paths. You're ruining gems for us, okay? I need you to keep your beak out of this fucking promo business, alright? I don't care what your higher-ups have told you about keeping these two separate. You let them cross paths at the PI. You let them cross paths at the PI. That's what it's about. They're not going to start swinging on each other.
MMA Guru also shared his opinion on the Ankalaev vs Pereira rematch, saying he does not expect Alex Pereira to fully commit to his takedown defense. He warned that if Pereira is not at 100% in that area, he will run into serious problems against Ankalaev.
My take on the rematch is I don't see Pereira going 100% on takedown defense again. And I think if he doesn't go 100% on takedown defense again, there could be some problems.
Furthermore, MMA Guru admitted that he's worried about Alex Pereira heading into the rematch, but made it clear that fans should not overlook how competitive the first fight really was. He pointed out that the bout was razor close from start to finish, and while he personally scored it in favor of Magomed Ankalaev, Guru emphasized that labeling such a narrow contest as domination because doing so ignores the competitive back and forth that actually took place inside the cage.
I'm worried about Pereira here. I'm worried about him here. However, let's stop acting like the first fight wasn't a razor-close decision. It was. Ankalaev won it, in my opinion, and he could have won it 4-1. But we've got to stop calling those types of fights domination. He won it based on like 1 or 2 strikes extra per round, maybe. You know?
Lucas Tracy believes trash talk plays an important role in building hype for a fight. He said he enjoys watching fighters trade words, especially when the UFC feels like it needs some extra energy. In his view, the back and forth between Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira is competitive rather than personal, adding excitement without crossing the line.
And listen, I love trash talk. I think trash talk is great. I think selling the fight is great. I'm happy Alex Pereira is animated. I am happy to see two fighters, especially today when the UFC has been feeling kind of stale lately, go at each other. I think the more trash talk, the merrier. And this is good old-fashioned competitive trash talk. This is not personal trash talk. They're not getting super personal. It's all in good fun.
With the feud now boiling over, the rematch between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev has become a clash fueled by pride and rivalry. The tension has only heightened the stakes, analysts remain split, fighters are taking sides, and fans are bracing for October 4th to see whether Pereira can reclaim his throne, or if Ankalaev will silence the doubters once again. So, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a beat. Let us know your predictions in the comment section, and we'll see you in the next video with more exciting updates.